That evening was unlike any I'd known before. I stood at the sink, rinsing dishes in warm, soapy water, embracing the rare and welcome quiet. Daniel had just stepped out. He mentioned needing a few things from the grocery store on Atlantic Avenue for breakfast. I didn't ask questions. I simply nodded and turned back to the dishes. I treasure these moments when the house was entirely mine. No TV, no chatter, just stillness and water cascading gently from the faucet. The pendant light overhead bathed the kitchen in a cozy amber glow. The warm water soothed the fatigue in my hands as I fell into a steady rhythm. Scrub, rinse, place in the rack, repeat. Outside, streetlights painted streaks of gold on the rain-slick sidewalk. A few honking horns echoed in the distance, reminding me that Brooklyn never truly slept. I closed my eyes, just for a second, breathing in the peace. Then it hit me. A presence. I didn't hear the door. No footsteps. But someone was behind me, too close. A warmth, steady, alive, brushed my back. My body tensed. I knew that scent. Tobacco and sandalwood. Lucas. Daniel's closest friend since college. I didn't need to turn. I knew it was him. He didn't speak. He didn't touch me. But I felt the tension coil in the air like a live wire. Then he whispered, "You felt it too, didn't you?" I should have walked away. But I stayed frozen. That was the moment everything shifted. My name is Emma Carter, 32 years old. I live in a modest home in Brooklyn with my husband, Daniel. And until that night, I thought I understood the shape of my life. I gripped the plate in my hand harder, water running over my knuckles as I tried to calm the rising tension in my chest. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe Lucas just dropped by to say something. But then, why didn't I hear him come in? Why was he standing so close? I drew in a breath, steadying my voice. "What are you doing here, Lucas?" A quiet laugh tickled the nape of my neck, sending a shiver down my spine. "Just wanted to look at you." I frowned. The words felt slippery, evasive. I kept scrubbing, pretending not to notice the heat of his body, so close it made my skin crawl. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Even without looking, I felt his eyes, razor-sharp, cutting through me. "You're awfully quiet for someone who just showed up unannounced," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral, though my throat was tight. "Didn't want to disturb you," he said casually, but the sarcasm laced through it was unmistakable. I bit down on my lip, trying to ground myself. The water no longer felt warm. Lucas shifted. Barely, but enough. He was even closer now. I turned my head slightly, catching a glimpse of him in the corner of my eye. The kitchen's soft lighting carved shadows into his face. His gaze was locked on me, dark, unreadable. A faint, knowing smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. My gut twisted. I didn't like the way he was watching me. Didn't like how close he was standing. Didn't like the charged air clinging to the room. I cleared my throat. "Where's Daniel?" He shrugged, that same smirk playing on his lips. "Still out." A beat passed. "Thought you might need company." The way he said it, measured, deliberate, made my stomach knot tighter. "I'm fine," I said a little too sharply. "Just cleaning up." Lucas leaned back against the counter, folding his arms, eyes never leaving mine. "Do you always work this hard?" I forced a polite smile. Someone has to tidy up after dinner. But he didn't return the smile. Instead, he tilted his head, his eyes tracing my features with unsettling precision. "I don't think Daniel appreciates you enough." I stopped, turned fully to face him. "What?" He didn't answer right away. He just studied me, gaze digging beneath the surface like he was searching for something hidden. "He leaves you alone too often," he said at last, voice low-edged. The air grew heavier. I clutched the edge of the sink, trying to keep my breath steady. A line had just been crossed, and we both knew it. I turned back to the water, willing the normalcy of dishwashing to drown out the rising current inside me. Just Lucas. Just a weird moment. Nothing more. But his presence loomed, closer than necessary. He moved again, not touching, but near enough that his body heat seeped through the thin fabric of my shirt. I clenched my jaw. Part of me wanted to turn and tell him to leave. But another part, a part one didn't want to acknowledge, hesitated. Because if I turned around, I'd have to face something I wasn't ready to name. Then his voice dropped into the silence. "You should stop." I froze. "Stop what?" I asked, heart thudding, voice shakier than before. He didn't respond at first. I felt his gaze on the back of my neck, considering. Then he stepped away. The space between us felt startling, unnatural. Okay, he murmured. See you later. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. His footsteps echoed as he left. Then, the front door closed. He was gone. I stood motionless, staring at the water. My hands trembled, but the sensation of his nearness clung to my skin. This wasn't over. I knew it. Minutes passed. Then, I heard footsteps again. Slower, more deliberate. I turned, pulse racing. A part of me hoped it was Daniel, that he'd forgotten something, that he'd be the one walking through the door. But it wasn't. It was Lucas. He stood in the doorway, tall, shadowed, his eyes locked on mine. No shame. No retreat. I swallowed. Why are you still here? He didn't speak. He stepped inside and shut the door behind him, loud, firm. I flinched. You forgot something, he said, voice almost playful, but something darker simmered beneath it. The kitchen suddenly felt too small. You should go, I said firmly. He smiled, a slow, lazy grin that hinted at things unspoken. You feel it too, don't you, Emma? He moved closer, one careful step at a time, until we were nearly touching. He trusts you, Lucas whispered, his breath grazing my cheek. Maybe too much. My fingers dug into the counter. His presence coiled around me like smoke, seductive, threatening. Then, he brushed my arm. Just barely. But it was enough to send a bolt of energy down my spine. I should have screamed, shoved him away. But I stayed frozen. His lips hovered close, dangerously close. And then we heard it. A car pulling into the driveway. Everything stopped. We froze. I snapped out of it, shoving him back, breath short. Go! Lucas stared at me for a long second. Then, without a word, he retreated through the back door. I pressed my hands to my chest, trying to calm the chaos inside me. A moment later, the front door creaked open. Daniel stepped in, cheerful, oblivious. Hey, babe. Got everything we need. I turned, forcing a smile. Buried it all. He set the bags down and wrapped his arms around my waist, kissing my temple. You okay? You look kind of flushed. I nodded quickly. It's just the steam. He chuckled. Told you not to overwork yourself. I laughed with him, helped him unpack. But every time my fingers brushed a cool carton or cardboard box, I flinched, afraid the moment would shatter. Daniel chatted about the drive, the radio, something funny he'd heard. I nodded. I smiled. But my mind kept circling back to Lucas, to his stare, his breath, his touch, and worst of all, the part of me that hadn't wanted him to leave. Not right away. Days passed. I tried to push it all away, pretend it had never happened, that the hand on my arm was a trick of memory, that his lips had never hovered near mine. But I couldn't. And Lucas, he didn't let me forget. At the grocery store, I felt someone watching me. At the coffee shop, I sensed eyes across the street. Then one night, I was at the sink again, pouring a glass of water. And I knew. I looked up. There he was. Lucas stood outside the window, half veiled in shadow. The streetlight caught just enough of his face, his eyes, locked on mine. The hint of a smirk. He hadn't said a word. But I already knew. This was far from over.